Hello, good afternoon. My name is Melissa Sanchez, and today I will be presenting my project titled The Psychological Benefit of Early ABA Intervention on Emotional Regulation in Children with ADHD. The goal of this presentation is to explain how early ABA interventions support emotional regulation in children with ASD and why that is essential for their long-term psychological and social development. This project reviews how early ABA intervention enhances emotional regulation in children with ASD. My central thesis is that early ABA significantly improve emotional and psychological outcomes by teaching coping strategies, improving communication, and integrating emotional goals into treatment programs. Autism spectrum disorder affects communication, social interaction, and behavioral flexibility. Children with ASD often struggle to identify emotions, understand internal states, and communicate their needs. These difficulties can lead to frustration, anxiety, aggression, self-injury, or withdrawal. Without target instructions, many children do not learn how to calm themselves or cope with change. Emotional regulation is the ability to notice a feeling, interpret correctly, and respond in an adaptive way. Emotional regulation is foundational to learning, mental health, and social developments. Children with ASD often have limited emotional vocabulary and difficulty expressing how they feel, which increases the likelihood of emotional outbursts. Teaching emotional regulation early is essential to prevent long-term behavioral and psychological difficulties. Early childhood, especially age 2 to 5, is critical period of brain plasticity. During this stage, children learn fast and can acquire emotional, cognitive, and communication skills more easily. Research shows that early intensive intervention produces moderate to large improvement across developmental areas, creating a stronger foundation for emotional regulation. ABA is based on the science of behavior and learning. It uses principles such as reinforcement, prompting, shaping, extinction, and generalization. When applied to emotional regulation, ABA teaches children to identify emotions, communicate needs, and respond more flexible and calming to challenging situations. In ABA, complex emotional skills are broken down into small, teachable components. These include teaching children to recognize facial expression, label emotions, use break cards, request help, or practice calming strategies such as deep breathing or sensory tools. In ABA, every behavior serves a function, like escape, attention, access to tangible or sensory function. When we identify the functions of a behavior, we can replace emotional outbursts with appropriate emotional response. For example, instead of screaming to avoid a task, the child learned to request a break or ask for help. Joan Collins studied 60 children with ASD between the age of 3 and 7. The results showed significant improvement in emotional regulation, fewer emotional outbursts, and better peer interaction. Assessment tools like the Emotional Regulation Checklist and the Vinland Adaptive Behavior Scale reflects these gains. This meta-analysis includes 29 studies with more than 600 children receiving early intensive behavioral intervention. The results showed moderate to large improvement in IQ, communication, and adaptive behavior. These areas directly support better emotional regulation by reducing frustration and increases expressive ability. This study of 344 preschoolers found significant improvement in intellectual functioning and adaptive skills. Children with stronger adaptive skills are better able to participate in social and educational environments, which support their emotional regulation. This research found that ABA benefits not only children, but also families. Parents report reduced stress, increases confidence, and improved communication with their children. A more confident and prepared caregiver creates a more stable emotional environment for the child. Massaski emphasized that emotional dysregulation is a core feature of ASD and is linked to anxiety, aggression, and social difficulties. This highlights the importance of directly targeting emotional regulation in treatment. Severally and Polish reviewed 29 studies and found that emotional regulation is frequently discussed in ASD research, but there are inconsistencies in how it is defined and measured. This shows the need of standardized emotional assessment tools in future research. Measurement tools. Tools commonly used to measure emotional and adaptive behavior include the Emotional Regulation Checklist, the Vinland Adaptive Behavior Scale, the Child Behavior Checklist, and Goal Attainment Scaling. These tools help identify emotional strengths and challenges, allowing for more accurate treatment planning. This study reviewed multiple research studies to examine how early ABA intervention supports emotional regulation and adaptive development in children with ASD. Communication is the foundation of emotional regulation. When children have the ability to express distress, ask for help, or communicate discomfort, emotional escalation decreases. Research showed that gains in communication lead to fewer maladaptive behavior and improved emotional functioning. ABA intervention provides structure, predictability, and visual organization. Tools like visual schedule reduce anxiety, strength self-control, and increase frustration tolerance. This kind of structure support enhance executive function, which are directly tied to emotional regulation. When caregivers learn ABI strategies, they become core regulators who help children apply coping skills at home. This consistency across environment reinforce emotional learning and reduce emotional crisis. Parents move from crisis management to emotional connection. Intervention should include emotional goals in every ABA treatment plan. Combining ABA with psychology, occupational therapy, and speech language therapy provide more holistic emotional support. There are limitations, including inconsistent definition of emotional regulation, limited long-term follow-up studies, and a lack of cultural diversity in research. Future studies must standardize measurement tools and examine long-term emotional outcomes. Professionals should prioritize emotional regulation as a core treatment target. Routinely evaluate emotional needs and train parents to reinforce coping starting consistently at home and in school. Policy markets should support funding for early intensive ABA programs that include emotional goals. Administrators should encourage interdisciplinary collaboration and ensure emotional goals are part of all treatment plans. Future research should develop a standardized definition of emotional regulation, conduct longitudinal studies, explore cultural response practices, and task integrity, behavior, emotional intervention models. ABA. In conclusion, early ABA intervention meaningful improve emotional regulation in children with ASD by teaching coping strategies, enhancing communication, and integrating emotional learning into daily routine. These emotional gains support long-term psychological well-being, stronger family relationships, and improve social participation. That's the reference that I use in my project, and that's gonna be all. Thank you for watching.